Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel, and let's talk about some changes to Monster Legends that are going to occur this month, October 2018. These changes, I haven't seen them myself. I did see Did the Awesome's video, so shout out to him. Thank you for making a video, for making me aware of it. Normally, I would really be up to it and checking updates myself and checking the forum, seeing what's up, but I haven't really had that much time. But after seeing this video, I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about this because this is so darn interesting. And I feel like a lot of time I have a view that it opposes what the popular opinion is, because I love change. I am open to new things, because if you have the same old boring way of a game, it gets boring. It's like, okay, yeah, run deny monsters and deny over and over and over and over again. There's no strategy to that. It's boring. It's no different than you can literally give like a little kid, a 3-year-old, maybe not a 3-year-old, a 4 or 5-year-old, your cell phone with a Voltic, and they can do whatever skill and you'll win because you can attack endlessly. That's no fun. That's boring. I love strategy. I love mixing it up. So I love when these new monsters get introduced that can block this and block that, and you can take on top monsters. So now one thing they're hitting is the control monsters, which I don't mind. So let's talk about that. So hello everybody, you may have noticed that in the past few months we have been focusing a lot on gameplay and battle experience by fixing extensive amount of bugs. Yes, they've been doing that, good job there. But we're not stopping there. To further improve the battles, apply consistency, and create a new space for new monster synergy, we will implement the following changes. Unifying Mega, control skills and protections. Immunity to stun, status and trait will block stun and mega stun. Immunity to freeze, status and trait will block freeze and mega freeze. Immunity to possession, status and trait will block regular possessions, but it won't block exclusive possessions like rebooted, subscribed, corrupted, or hacked, and the mountain trait will now block stun, mega stun, freeze, and mega freeze. Oh wow, so now the basic immunities to stun, freeze are blocking everything. Honestly, in my personal opinion, and you've probably seen me say, you probably have heard me in a video before, I felt like it should have been that way from the start. I think when like Bronze's got released and he had a mega stun skill, the fact that it could bypass regular immunity to stun, I didn't like. I felt like immunity to stun should still block mega stun because it's still stun. There wasn't anything special other than it blocks you for 2 turns. So I don't have a problem with this. I feel like they should have been introduced at the get-go from the very beginning, but it's nice, but it's at least nice that it's finally being unified. And again, I can understand if you don't like this because maybe you got a monster fully ranked up, maybe you relied on a monster, but hey, just change your battle playing style, I guess. It's not that big of a deal in my personal opinion. And again, this is coming from someone who always kind of wanted this anyhow. I do feel that now this makes room for making exclusive stun. So maybe now they can introduce paralyzed, which is basically stun but bypasses the stun, mega stun immunity, like possession. The fact that immunity to possession doesn't block exclusive possessions, well, now we can finally get an exclusive freeze. Maybe call it frostbite. So we could actually have a niche monster that can bypass freeze, because having like a mega freeze that bypasses just freeze, that wasn't cool. Because, and I don't know, in my eyes it's still freeze, you know. So I at least like that, like hacked and rebooted, they're at least called something else. And then that also makes the monster like Hackster amazing, because hey, here's this monster that has a possession skill that can actually bypass a possession trait. That's cool. But having a monster that just has mega possession that can bypass possession, I didn't really like that. So now this creates the room to create monsters that have those nifty single target or AoE skills that can bypass strong immunities. And also I feel like this was needed just because more and more monsters were being released with Mega Stun, with Mega Freeze. I mean, just look at the new War Master. Imagine if she could bypass regular immunity to freeze, that'd be dangerous. So now we at least know that if we see the new War Master, we can be like, okay, I'll bring 3 monsters that are immune to freeze, so now her AoE Mega Freeze won't touch me. And now we kind of have a way to counter. So I like that a lot. The trait getting the buff of being able to block Mega Freeze, Mega Stun, I think it blocked everything except 1. So now that I can block everything, that's awesome. Run your trait monsters, your mountain monsters I mean, with Necromancer, and they are immune to everything. I love that so much. Finally I can get some usability out of my Gerses, out of my Krauton. That'll be nice. Let's keep on going. Recently controlled. Recent controlled status, recently stunned, recently frozen, recently possessed, will be applied for 1 turn to a monster after stun, freeze, or possession. Awesome. Also, I think, like, it never made sense to me why stun was so trash compared to freeze and possession. Why are we allowed to chain freeze and chain possession? I never understood that. That made stun so weak. Like seriously, the fact that you could stun and then you can't stun until a following turn, or the turn after the following turn, that was lame. The fact that you could possess and possess and possess and possess over all you needed was a fast monster, a fast Baba Yaga to go, and then the enemy only has like an Agursis left, you could possess the whole entire game because that Agursis would never get a turn in. Like your Baba Yaga would probably get like 5 turns in before that Agursis got 1 turn in, so you could possess him for the whole entire game. But now you can't rely on that because after you possess him, he's going to be immune to possession on the next turn, so you're really going to have to work around this. So I don't mind this at all. I think this is great. I think this is going to make players rely on more strategy and less just basic, oh, I'll possess you for the whole game, I'll freeze you for the whole game. I like this. I also think this gives a lot of power to monsters that can remove positive effects. So because recently stunned, recently frozen, recently possessed, those are positive effects. So the fact that now monsters, Kihaku's a great example. Kihaku has a skill called Makosu, which removes positive effects. Some players would argue that wasn't a good skill, not worth running. Now with these new changes, it is, because this gives Kihaku a way to remove a positive effect from the enemy and then still be able to try to immobilize them. So I like that a lot. It also gives a lot of power to the recently released monster Patient Cyber. Patient Cyber has an effect called Nanovirus, which blocks positive status effects on the enemy, which means that if you can start the game off with Patient Cyber and apply the Nanovirus, or at some point in the game apply Nanovirus, and then freeze, possess, or stun, they won't get the recently stunned, recently possessed, recently frozen status effect, so you can still chain deny them. It just requires an extra step. It requires you thinking outside of the box. It requires you creating some synergy to be able to do that. So I just like that now there's going to be new synergy you need to create. Like, how are you going to utilize Patient Cyber? How are you going to utilize the Nanovirus? What future monsters are we going to see with a Nanovirus effect or a Nanovirus-like effect? So I'm curious to see. I don't mind this too much. I really don't. I think from the perspective of being like weaker than the enemy, like an underdog, I think it helps when you fight maybe like a Baba Yaga, who maybe turn 1 does do AoE possession and now your monster are possessed. But now you know turn 2, she can't do AoE possession again, or she can't single possess you. So you're safe, you're protected. So I do like that. I think, and I can also see the counter argument where like if a monster is ranked up and everything, they can dominate you other ways. But I don't know, I think it's fine. I think it also gives a lot of value to monsters that have different deny skills. So if you have a monster, and Baba Yaga is the example I'm using because I recently used her and she has an AoE possession, she has a single possession, and now maybe I might want to change that skill. I might not need that many possession skills on her. Maybe instead I'm going to look for a monster that has an AoE possession and an AoE stun, or an AoE possession and a single stun, or a monster that has AoE freeze, maybe single possession, maybe single freeze. You know, I'm going to look for monsters that can mix it up, that can do more than a single deny. Frostbite is another good example. Frostbite has AoE freeze, AoE freeze. Now, maybe I gotta rethink, do I want to give him a different skill? Do I want to rely on a different monster? So I like this. Anything that makes me think, I love. Anything that is like, oh, this monster has AoE freeze, AoE freeze, AoE mega freeze, AoE freeze. Yeah, it doesn't take too much thought to use that monster, so I don't mind any of this. And if it means me being able to use other monsters that I haven't used, that's awesome too. And let's see, these changes will be live on October 8th, so that's going to happen. And then we want to make the transition as smooth as possible, so you will have 2 weeks where you can move all of your skills for gold. Thank you. I have been waiting for this. I was actually going to recommend this should be a thing they do like periodically, like maybe once a month or twice, or once every 2 months, once every 3 months even. Just have like a 3-day period where you can change skills for gold. That way players can mess around with different combinations. That's awesome. Now, because there's so many monsters that I need to change their skills, especially after they made that 50% change, where 50% skills aren't 100%. Like Sammy, my Sammy still has that revival skill, that skills group 4, the skills group 3 revival skill, when he should really have the skills group 4 revival skill. So I'm going to change that on Sammy. I know my Egg Eater has a skill I want to change. I want to give him the literal cooldown stun skill. A lot of monsters have skills that I really would like to change, so I'm definitely going to do it. So October 8th is when it starts. You can change skills for gold. You can also unequip runes for 50% less cost than they cost, which is awesome because I have a Shadownar right now with the level 10 strength rune, and I have never ever used Shadownar. I haven't used it in the longest, so I'm getting rid of that rune. I'm gonna give it to someone else, maybe my Burrito, so he can destroy other monsters. So I'm looking forward to this. I don't mind the changes. I know a lot of people do. A lot of people are so opposed to change, and there's definitely valid reasons. But again, overall, if things don't change, it would be so darn boring. If every game I had to worry about getting possessed and stunned over and over and over and over and over again, and I couldn't do anything about it, I would get bored. I would hate it. But now that I have some chance of, yeah, okay, maybe I get stunned and frozen turn 1. Like if I'm fighting Kihaku and he does his AoE freeze and possession, okay, maybe he frees and possesses me. I know he can't do it next turn, so I at least get to do something. So yeah, maybe some monsters lose value, other monsters gain value. That's the way the game should be. Some monsters should get hit, some monsters shouldn't get hit. A single monster shouldn't be allowed to dominate the whole entire game. Ruby's another good example. Ruby might land Mega Freeze and Mega Stun on you, but now you know you'll be protected, and she can't keep spamming lane odds, Ruby Implosion, Explosion. So yeah, she kind of loses usability there, but this gives room for new monsters to be utilized. Now Cooldown's Activate is going to become super strong, but there's also a lot of monsters that have 0 cooldown skills that you got to watch out for. So changes like this, I think, just make the game more difficult, which I love because I love strategy, and like I said, I don't like being able to give a 3-year-old a cell phone with a Voltic or a Charmless and have them attack endlessly and they win. There's no strategy to that. Let's talk about this because I just saw this. There was a lot of feedback, positive, negative. So let's see, why are they doing what they're doing? In regards to the recently status, we do not think it is fun when monsters are able to block enemies from playing that. But exactly. If a monster can chain freeze for the whole entire game, that's not fun. If they can chain possession, that's not fun. Some monster teams are able to win with the opponent even being able to take a single action. Yeah, that's the most boring thing ever. So this strategy it'll still be possible for players to enjoy it, and it's still possible to stun a recently frozen enemy. So it's all about making a team combination where you can still utilize, like, just because of this change doesn't mean that you can't chain deny. Now you'll just have to go from possession to a freeze to a stun, or some combination like that, from a freeze to a stun to a freeze. So it's not like it's going to be killed, it's just it'll be a little more difficult, which again adds to strategy. Monsters with traits such as immune to freeze or immune to stun were very weak when matched against premium monsters such as, yeah, exactly, that's exactly what I said. The mega variations that you had no way of blocking. So yeah, it's like they read my mind or whatever. Now all of these monsters will have a big boost, definitely, and will have improved chances to fight against the top controllers of the game. I definitely agree. When I run into Thalassa, I ignore her because I have no way of countering her. But with this new change, I know I can bring my Frostbite, and I can bring other monsters, and I might have a chance. So this will be interesting. Premium monsters are still among the very best of the game, and will be the ones used by the most skilled players, or the players with the most money, to deliver the high level strategies, but other monsters will not have a better chance to participate in the battle. That is true. Nevertheless, since we are aware of how impactful the change will be, we will make changes in order to make it easier for you. We will give you 2 weeks where you can unequip runes for 50% of their cost. I feel like they should just make that gold also. Just allow us to unequip runes for gold. Or maybe the reason they're not doing that is because the rune lords would be so messed up with players just buying their way to the top. So I guess that could be a valid reason. The changing skills for gold I love. You can test new skills. We understand that applying this change shortly after the release of the mask is not ideal for players, made a lot of effort to obtain it. Yeah, that's kind of true too. That's kind of true. If you got Thalassa with the thinking that you could now take advantage of immunity to freeze monsters, you kind of lose that. So we're offering players that have obtained her or herself for a refund. And you can request a refund up until the 22nd. We remove the monster and give you the orbs back, which you can spend on whoever you want. Before requesting the refund, we encourage you to try her out with the new changes. With her top speed, ability to negate trades and remove good effects, including recently to Frozen, she's still one of the very best monsters. I was going to say that too. Thalassa is incredible. The fact that she can remove positive effects, even if you AoE freeze everyone, and then they're immune to freeze, she still has a skill that removes positive effects and doesn't mega freeze, so she's still very powerful. And again, just team her up with a monster that can remove positive effects, team her up with Patient Cyber, there's so many ways to get around it. So overall, I'm pro changes. I love change, but that's just me. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think about the new changes? What do you like? What don't you like? What monster that you loved is now absolutely getting obliterated and you hate it? What monster that you really would have loved to use, you now could use because of these changes? Any thoughts you guys may have around these changes, please leave them in the comments below, and I will see you all next time.